Lever Brothers Company, the makers of Lux Toilet Soap, bring you the Lux Radio Theater, starring Vivien Leigh and Laurence Olivier in Rebecca. Ladies and gentlemen, your producer, Mr. William Keighley. Greetings from Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. The motion picture industry was delighted when Laurence Olivier and Vivien Leigh decided to return to the United States after too long an absence. As you know, they're recognized as two of England's finest artists. We've honored Miss Leigh with our Academy Award for her performance as Scarlett O'Hara and Mr. Olivier for his Hamlet. So I was especially delighted I was able to persuade them to appear on the Lux Radio Theater. Since they're sailing next week for England, their schedule is extremely tight, and we consider it a rare privilege to have them in their first and only radio appearance together on our stage. We chose David O. Selznick's immortal screenplay, Rebecca. First, because of Laurence Olivier's brilliant characterization in his original role of Maxime de Winter. And second, because the role of Mrs. de Winter is tailored to the charm and acting ability of Vivien Leigh. We regret that Sir Lawrence and Lady Olivier can't stay longer in our country. But we hope when they sail next week for England, they'll take along plenty of Lux Toilet Soap. Vivien Leigh has been a friend of Lux for years. Now here's our play, starring Laurence Olivier as Maxime de Winter and Vivien Leigh as the woman who tells the story of Rebecca.
I dreamt I went to Mandalay again. It seemed to me I stood by the iron gates leading to the drive, and for a while I could not enter, for the way was barred to me. Then, like all dreamers, I was possessed of a sudden with supernatural powers and passed like a spirit through the barrier before me. The drive wound away in front of me, twisting and turning, and finally, there was Mandalay. Mandalay, secretive and silent. Time could not mar the perfect symmetry of those walls, but I knew I looked upon an empty, desolate shell, with no whisper of the past in its staring, blackened windows. We can never go back to Mandalay again. That much is certain. But sometimes in my dreams I do go back, to the strange days of my life which began for me in the south of France. There, on a great cliff towering above the sea, I first saw him. He was looking down, staring at the rocks below. And then suddenly, I thought I saw him above you. No, stop!
What the devil are you shouting about? Who are you? What are you staring at?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stare, but you were so close to the edge of the cliff, I was afraid that...
Oh, you were? Well, what are you doing here?
I was only walking. I came up the path and I...
Well, get on with your walking. Don't hang about here screaming. Go on.
I'll never come to Monte Carlo out of season again. Not a single well-known personality in the hotel. Coffee stone cold. Waiter, garçon.
I don't believe he can hear you, Mrs. Van Hopper.
Well, get him. What are you being paid for, girl? Oh, that's Max de Winter. Look, see him coming this way. What are you looking so surprised about?
I saw him today on the cliff path.
Mr. de Winter, how do you do?
How do you do?
I'm Edith Van Hopper. Do you remember me? It's so nice to run into you here. Do sit down and have some coffee. Mr. Winter's having some coffee with me. You may go.
Of course.
I'm afraid I must contradict you. You shall both have coffee with me. Garçon, coffee, please. Oui, monsieur.
You know, I recognized you just as soon as you came in. Are you playing the tables much here at Monte?
No, I'm afraid that sort of thing ceased to amuse me years ago.
Oh, I can well understand that. If I had a home like Mandalay, I should certainly never come to Monte. I hear it's one of the biggest places in that part of the country, and you just can't beat its beauty.
A cigarette, Mrs. Van Hopper.
Oh, thank you.
And you?
Oh, no, thank you.
And what do you think of Monte Carlo? Or don't you think of it at all?
Well, I think it's rather artificial.
She's spoiled, Mr. De Winter. That's her trouble. Most girls would give their eyes for the chance to see Monte.
Wouldn't that rather defeat the purpose?
Oh, now that we've found each other again, I do hope I shall be seeing something of you. Your valet's unpacked for you, I suppose.
I'm afraid I don't possess one. Perhaps you'd like to do it for me.
Oh, well, this young lady might make herself useful. She's a capable child in many ways, aren't you, dear?
Mrs. Van...
That's a charming suggestion, but I'm afraid I cling to the old motto. He travels fastest who travels alone. Perhaps you've not heard of this. Good night.
What do you make of that? Do you suppose that sudden departure was intended to be funny? Oh, perhaps he didn't quite realize how it looked. Poor thing. I suppose he just can't get over his wife's death. They say he simply adored her.
When I came alone to the dining room the following day, he was already there, at the next table. As I sat down, I paid the penalty of my awkwardness. I knocked over a vase of flowers, the water soaking the cloth.
Mademoiselle?
Oh, I'm so sorry. What a stupid thing to do.
You can leave that, waiter. Go and let another place at my table. Mademoiselle will have lunch with me. Oui,
Oh, no, I couldn't possibly.
Why not?
Oh, please don't be polite. It's very kind of you, but...
I wasn't being polite. I should have asked you to lunch with me even if you hadn't been so clumsy. Sit down. We needn't talk to each other if we don't feel like it.
Well, thank you very much.
What's happened to your friend?
Oh, she's ill in bed with a cold.
Oh. I'm sorry I was rude to you yesterday. The only excuse I can offer is that I have become boorish through living alone.
You weren't really. You just wanted to be by yourself.
Tell me, is Mrs. Van Hopper a friend of yours or just a relation?
No, she's my employer. I'm what is known as a paid companion.
I didn't know that companionship could be bought. Is that a sketching pad? Do you sketch?
Yes, a little.
Were you going sketching this afternoon?
Yes.
Where?
Oh, I haven't made up my mind.
No, I'll drive you somewhere in the car.
Oh, no, please don't. I don't
Nonsense. Order your lunch and we get along. You've taken long enough for that sketch. I shall expect a really fine work of art.
You're not a very easy subject. Your expression keeps changing all the time.
Does it? Well, I'd concentrate on the view instead if I were you. It's much more worthwhile. Rather reminds me of our coastline at home. Do you know Cornwall at all?
Oh, yes. Yes, I went there once on a holiday. I was in a shop there, and I saw a postcard with a beautiful house on it, right by the sea. And I asked whose house it was, and the old lady said, "That's Mandalay."
Yes. Mandalay is beautiful. But to me, it's just the place where I was born and have lived in all my life. Now, I don't suppose I shall ever see it again.
Oh. Well, we're lucky not to be home during the bad weather, aren't we? I can't ever remember enjoying swimming in England until June, can you? But the water's so warm here, I could stay in all day. There's a dangerous undertone. There was a man drowned here last year, but I never had any fear of drowning. Have you?
Why did you say that?
Oh, I said something wrong. I didn't mean to.
Come along. I'll take you home.
That night I learned the reason for his strangeness. I was late getting back to the hotel. As I opened the door of Mrs. Van Hopper's suite, I heard her talking to someone on the telephone.
Oh, yes, I knew him quite well. I knew his wife, too. She was the beautiful Rebecca Hildreth, you know. The most glamorous creature in all England. She was drowned, poor thing, while she was sailing near Mandalay.